What's up, everybody? Hopefully having a wicked one wherever you are in the world today. Today is another solo show from me. A couple of episodes ago, I did an episode focused entirely on the gear that I used for the upcoming album that I'm going to be releasing, the Divine King project. And we talked about my process of choosing the correct bass for the album, which was this whole... Well, it was a whole deep dive I went down into that, how I was thinking about which was the perfect bass, why I actually ended up with going with the bass that was more playable than another bass. And even though the other bass tonally might have been a better fit for the album, I still went with the bass that was more playable. Not to say that either bass was better, they're just different sounds tonally. And also why I didn't end up using a fretless, because that was certainly the idea for a while. So if you do want to check out that podcast episode, just go back to, you'll be able to find it a couple of episodes before this one, and it's called What I Learned from Recording My First Album, Gear. All about the gear. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about what I learned from recording my first album, and we're going to be talking specifically all about preparation and regrets. But before I get into it, I do want to give you a quick shout and let you know that I did mention this in the previous podcast episode where I focused on the album as well, that we've actually created an entire ebook for the album with all of the tablature and notation in there for every single track on the entire album, which is 9 tracks in total, solos, everything, the full gubbins, and we're actually giving it away for free. We're going to be giving it away to you guys for free. And to get that, you're going to have to keep listening to the ebook. I mean, keep listening to the ebook. Keep listening to the podcast. Or if you are signed up to our email list over at scottsbasslessons.com, you're going to be hearing about it over there. So if you're a member of SBL, don't worry about it. You're going to be hearing about it, how to get your hands on it. So yeah, and if you're wondering why we're giving it away, because I want everybody to be trying to play these tunes. I want people to be jumping in, listening to the album, but not only listening to the album, I want them to be jumping in and then trying to get this stuff under their fingers as well, because I think that it was just an absolute blast to perform and play for myself. But also with these lines, you'll be able to get your feet under the table in terms of my vocabulary. What am I thinking? What am I playing over specific chord types and all of that good stuff? And I really learned a lot from transcribing other players and getting a sense of the language that they were using specifically over different chords. Like when there's a major chord, what language do they use? When there's a minor chord, what language are they using? Like, how do they play over these chords? And by making all of this available, you'll be able to get a sense of how I'm thinking about these different chords and what I'm using. So look out for the free ebook that we've created for the album. And if you want to take one step further, once you've got the free ebook, you're also going to get the ability to sign up for the SBL membership as well. We put a special offer together for you guys if you haven't already joined. If you're already a member, don't worry, we're going to take care of you guys. But if you haven't, there'll be an awesome special offer for you to join. And check it out, what I've done is created an entire course for this album. So when you sign up, you're going to get 9 workshops, 1 workshop for each of the tracks on the album. And a workshop is around 40 minutes to 60 minutes long, where I'm going to jump in and teach you each specific track on the album. So you've got the free ebook, right? You've got the tab and notation, but if you want me to show you how to play this stuff, the fingering, and exactly what I was thinking when I was creating these solos, from a harmonic perspective, the scales I was using, the chord tones I was using, technically how to approach this stuff, you're going to want to sign up to the membership, because I've created a course to show you and talk you through step by step how to do this stuff. So again, look out for the free ebook. I'm going to be keeping you guys in the loop how to get that over the next few weeks. The albums drop in first week of October, and then when you grab that free ebook, you are going to have a really cool opportunity to sign up to the membership and get that course as well that I've created. And again, if you are a member, you guys are already taken care of. You'll have instant access to that course, so do not sweat it. Okay, now jumping in, preparation. And I do believe that this was key to recording this album, well, for me specifically. I'm not sure about the other guys. I know that Simon prepped a lot. I know that he was getting his, he was definitely spending the hour, doing the hours in the shed. But for me, it was a really key thing because of the type of material that it was. And there was lots of unison lines. There was melodies I had to play. There was solos I had to do. I mean, like I had to prep. And for me, when you listen to the album, I'm hoping that is a reflection of the preparation that I put into this. And I started way out. I actually started honestly 6 to 8 weeks out, because I needed to do that to give myself the ability to record all of this stuff, because it was hairy. Not record all of this stuff, perform all of this stuff, because it was hairy. It was really challenging stuff. So I actually started way out, like 6 to 8 weeks out. And I got really, really organized about it as well. I printed all of the materials out. So I had them, so I wasn't just reading them from, an iPad or on my desktop. I wanted to actually hold the pad. I wanted to hold the pieces, hold the paper, be able to look at the paper and make notes and stuff like that. So I printed it all out. And then on my computer, on my desktop, I actually created a file that had all of the play-along tracks in there as well. They were MIDI play-along tracks. Like if you're an SBL member, when we release the album, you're going to get actually play-along tracks to like the real play-along tracks. So what we've done is we've recorded the album and then I've removed all of the bass, so you can actually be me in the band and you can play with Gergo and with Dave Binney and with all of these amazing musicians. You can be me in the band. So, but I wasn't practicing with those. I was practicing with like MIDI mock-ups. Well, they're actually better than MIDI mock-ups because Simon had already, he'd played he'd used, I think he would use like Superior Drummer or something like that, which is like a drum platform, like MIDI platform. He'd use that and he played in various bits. So I was hearing what the album was going to sound like. I just wasn't playing with real musicians. All that to say is that I'd created a folder. It had all of the play-along tracks, the MIDI play-along tracks on there. So I had all of the stuff printed off. I had the MIDI play-along tracks. For me, I'm kind of like super anal like that. I've got like a lot of, I like to get everything lined up. The preparation is a big thing for me. So I prepped kind of like my workspace as it was, had my play-along tracks, play-along MIDI tracks, and I had all of my the notation as well, all of the lead sheets that I needed up ahead of time. And then I also, once I'd got all of that together, I started scheduling this stuff in my calendar. Anybody knows me, if Ian Allison was listening to this, he'd be laughing because he knows that I'm a complete nerd when it comes to my calendar. I kind of live my life off of my calendar, based out my calendar. And my methodology is, and this is, just to put it out there, it depends on who you are as a person. You don't need to take on board my specific processes that I use. You can come up with your own processes, and it depends on what type of person you are. Now, I'm 45 and I'm pretty well adjusted to who I am as a person, right? And I'm actually very, I find it easy to be distracted. I find it very easy for my mind to wander into different, things that it shouldn't be wandering to. Like, it's easy for me to be distracted and pulled off course, which is why, for me specifically, it's very important to actually create a really strict calendar that shows me what I'm doing. So for myself, I had time blocked out every single day that I was going to be spending on this stuff. And and if you're thinking about like what in terms of time, how I did it, it was basically around 1 hour a day for around 4 days a week. I actually set out with the intention of doing 5 days a week, 1 hour a day, but I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got, a family to look after, and I need to spend time with them as well. And 5 days a week just proved to be too difficult for me to slot into that, that reality. So I took it down to 4 days a week, and that worked great. And it was 1 hour a day for 4 days a week. Now, and I was really strict with that. Like it didn't move. I did the work. just to put it out there, I did the work. Yeah. And then as I actually came up to the deadline when it was I was going to be recording this stuff and getting in the studio with the band, that did ratchet up to, I would say, around 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, for about 4 days a week. And that, when it ratcheted up to about that 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, I would say that would be the last 2 weeks. So I'd say, like I was practicing about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, and that last 2 weeks, I ratcheted that up to 90 minutes to 2 hours a day. And I was having to be really careful as well, because I have a neurological movement disorder called focal dystonia, which affects, well, it's neurological, it affects my brain, and it's why I wear gloves. And it's very easy for me to over practice and for that to have a devastating effect on my playing. So what I had to do is, but the trick for me, or the challenge, was to balance the amount of practice I was doing to give me the ability. So I had the prep done ahead of time that I needed to, but I wasn't over practicing, because that would blow my hands up, and then I would have had to cancel the entire thing. And that was definitely something I had to take into consideration. It was something there in the background all of the time. And in fact, when you see the videos, when we release them onto YouTube, because we've recorded the entire album and we've filmed the entire album as well. All of the recordings were filmed. All of the recordings were filmed. You'll see that I'm wearing gloves on both of my hands. The reason I'm wearing gloves on both, and you might not have seen that before. Some of you, if you've been following me for a while, you'll have seen that, but many of you won't have seen me wearing gloves on both hands. And the reason I had to wear gloves on both hands is that the focal dystonia had really started creeping into my right hand as well. Most of the time, it's in the left hand, but this time it had really started kicking in the right hand as well. So that was a challenge. So by the time I got to the studio, I was having to wear two gloves on both hands, and yeah, that was a challenge, because I'm not really used to that, because normally I play with just one glove on my left hand, because I'm able to navigate focal dystonia a little better than I had been during the preparation for this. So, but again, it was something I had to do. If I was doing it all again, what would I have done? Probably maybe started, I don't know. I was going to say start 10 weeks out maybe in the prep. It depends on the music as well. I've recorded albums before and done no prep, and because it's been more loose, just looser, less kind of orchestrated, less unison lines, less solo sections, less all of that stuff. So I've gone in and done albums with zero prep, and that's fine. But with this specific one, I had to do it because it was tough stuff, and there was a lot of stuff I had to get under my fingers. So I don't think in terms of I don't think I'd change anything, actually. I think that maybe next time I do it, if it's a similar kind of approach to the compositional part of it, so there's lots of unison lines, I'll probably just have to put in the work, and then I'll have to wear gloves on both hands if my symptoms start kicking in. But all that to say, it was actually fine. I didn't blow up my hands or anything like that, even though I do believe I was on the edge of doing it. But yeah, so again, just a quick recap. I practiced 6 to 8 weeks out. That's when I started practicing 1 hour a day for 4 days a week. And then in the last 2 weeks, that was taken up to around 90 minutes to 2 hours a day. And in general, I was doing them in in just a one-off block. But in that last 2 weeks, as my hands were kind of like potentially sort of like on meltdown mode, in terms of my focal dystonia, what I had to do on specific days, if that was proven to be a problem, I'd separate it out. So I'd do an hour, and then maybe I'd do 30 minutes later in the day or an hour later in the day. So I'd separate them out, because otherwise I would have been blowing up my hands and would have had to cancel the entire thing, which would have been not great. Anyway, so next bit, when I was practicing this stuff, it's really important to mention that I was recording a lot of it as well. When I was playing melodies, I was recording the melodies I was playing, so I could listen back, and I could get a sense of, well, whether I liked it or not. I mean, like, am I actually doing a great job of representing that melody? Do I need to tweak anything about it? Like, all of that. I'm a real fan of recording myself, and I think that you should be doing the same as well, because the first time you heard yourself speak, you were like, whoa, that doesn't sound like me. Well, same deal here. First time you hear yourself playing bass on a recording is the same experience. So if you've got an iPhone or a smartphone, whatever, and most of us will have, I just filmed myself so I could listen to how I was sounding, but also watch myself from a technique perspective and think, like, do I need to tweak anything? Is there anything else I need to change or anything like that? So, yeah, so I was recording every single time I did a practice session. I'd definitely record something or film it. In my case, I'd film it on my phone. The audio I didn't care about. It was just straight to just straight out of the camera, straight out of the phone. Didn't care about that. I just needed to get an idea of what I sounded like. It didn't need to be studio quality or anything like that. And then also it gave me the ability, and I talked about in that previous podcast episode as well, gave me the ability to listen to the different basses that I was thinking about using, because I really wanted to hear what they sounded like in the mix as I was playing along with those MIDI tracks. So that was vital for me, actually. And as I mentioned earlier, I did talk about this in a previous episode, that I actually ended up playing, doing all of the album on my F-bass BN5, which is the yellow banana bass. By the way, I am giving that bass away. Yes, you heard correctly. If you missed that, I talked about it extensively in the last podcast episode. We're doing a giveaway as I release this album. We're also going to be doing a giveaway alongside it. We're partnering with Pencils of Promise. We've raised hundreds of $1,000s with them in the past. So we thought it would be a cool opportunity to do the same and use that bass as sort of like the figurehead of the giveaway. As the cool, the first prize, as it were, is going to be that bass, because I want people to be really excited about the giveaway. It's completely free to enter, so you can absolutely do that. But I wanted people to be just like blown away, and I just thought, well, what's the best way of doing that? And it's obviously to take that bass, which is so important to me, that I recorded my first album on, which is sort of like my first sort of like project, the Divine King project, and use that bass as the giveaway. So yeah, it's I don't want to give it away, but I think it's awesome to do as well, because I think it's for a great cause. And so look out for that. That's going to be something you're going to be wanting to keep a lookout for. And I'm also giving away 4 more of my personal basses as well. Again, because I think it's for an amazing cause. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 3 or 4 years, built multiple schools with Pencils of Promise. So we're going to do the same. We're going to keep doing it. And thank you for helping us do it as well. Now, if you want to join, just keep a lookout. It's completely free to join the giveaway. You'll be getting something in your inbox about it very soon. So make sure that you signed up on the email list over at scottsbasslessons.com to do that. Oh, I'm getting notifications on my Mac here. Now, moving on. So, yes, I recorded it, and it gave myself the ability to listen back to what I was doing, and also listen back to the basses. Now, it's also funny, I guess it's sort of like a weird thing that happened that I wasn't expecting. I expected to actually practice the weekend leading up to getting in the studio. We were getting the first day as we got into the studio was the Monday. And I was expecting, I'd blocked it out on my calendar to practice right over Saturday and Sunday, an hour or 2 per day leading up to that session. And I did Friday, I practiced on Friday, And then something really strange happened. It's like some weird inner voice that I haven't experienced before was just like, yeah, that's it. No more practice. And that was on the Friday. So what I expected to happen was to be shedding like crazy over the weekend, over the Saturday and Sunday. But this inner voice just said no. And I think it said no for two different reasons. I think it said no because I really had put the preparation in, and I don't think I would have gained anything from practicing over the weekend. Don't think anything would have been gained. And the only thing actually that would have been gained, that takes me on to my second point of why I think that inner voice sort of like bubbled up and said no, is that the second thing would be it could have put me under even more pressure in terms of my focal dystonia, kicking in and making it an impossibility to actually, not do the album and then having to cancel and stuff like that, which would have been insanely stressful and a terrible experience to have to put on people, and yeah, all of that. So I think that, this inner voice just sort of like, bubbled up and said, no more practice. And it was awesome, actually. I felt really stoked that I'd put the practice in ahead of time. I'd done the preparation, and that the 2 days before, I didn't have to like cram anything in. I was done. By the way, if anybody can hear a bird tweeting, I think there's a bird nesting in the wall, and it stopped it now, but it was tweeting away. Yeah, it's just in the wall behind the plasterboard. But because I live in the woods out here. There's lots of birds doing their thing. But so it was great not to be able to not have to do that. And in terms of doing anything differently as well, in terms of the preparation, I don't think so. I think that I handled it well, especially in terms of having to navigate around focal dystonia. I think maybe an interesting question would be, if I didn't have focal dystonia, what would I have done? And I think the easy answer and the truth would be, I would have actually just played a hell of a lot more. I would have done more. I would have done 4 days a week, but maybe like 90 minutes to 2 hours a day throughout sort of like maybe like 4 to 6 weeks of that. I couldn't do that because of my focal dystonia, but I think if I could have, I would have, because I would have just loved to roll into that studio and just had it like, and I did have it nailed down, right? But there was, I think that I am that type of individual that likes to put in the work and likes to practice a lot. So it would have been fun to be able to put in more work. Anyway, moving on. So that was all to do with the preparation. Now moving on to regrets. What did I regret about it? And actually, I didn't regret hardly anything about it, actually. Like anything. I really had to think about when I had this idea of doing this podcast about talking about the preparation, then the regrets after going through it. It was really a struggle for me to come up with any regrets at all. But I do have one. And it was actually to do with after the recording. Okay, so I'd done all the preparation, great. Then we got in the studio, that went great. My only regret was actually what happened after, and it was all to do with my knowledge of being in the studio, like actually, mixing and engineering. And I am really weak in that area, like really, really, really weak when it comes to anything to do with mixing and engineering. It's just not anything that I've had to do in my career. It's all been focused on live stuff, that when I was working as a musician, 99% of the stuff that I was doing was live, and was either playing bass and being a musical director, which was nothing to do with recording or anything like that. So it was all focused on live stuff. So I'm really weak in the studio when it comes to mixing and engineering. And once we'd recorded it, I felt like I was like what I would have loved to have, next time round. Okay, let me just back up and give you sort of like what happened and then next time round. So what happened is we recorded it all, and then the mixing and engineering was completely handled by somebody else, which was this awesome guy called George, who was freaking awesome. And I wouldn't have, got involved really when it comes to sort of like mixing and engineering although I did to a certain extent, hey, let's bring up this, like both Simon and I did do that. We went down to the studio and we spent a full day down there mixing and engineering the album after we'd recorded it. So I was involved in that side, but I would have loved to actually got my bass tracks and just sat there and nerded out on the specific EQing and mix of the bass for a little longer than I did, and probably done it solo on my own, and then shot that back over to George and said, hey, I've got the bass sounding, like I'm sort of like I'm hearing in my head, just drop it into the tracks. And that isn't what happened. We went to the studio and we did it in the room. So yeah, and we did, we sat there, we EQ'd it, and I was more than an integral part of that. I was like, tweak it here, tweak it there, tweak it everywhere, like do that thing. I was there in the studio and we did that when we mixed it on that day. But I would have loved to spend some time on my own with the bass track and, fucked around with the audio some more, the EQing and stuff like that, compression, and just I felt like somebody else was driving the car in terms of the sound of the bass. Even though I'd been there on the day to mix it, I still felt like, I would have loved to have just sat with that myself and had the skill set and the knowledge to be able to sort of like have a deeper conversation with George in terms of what I was really looking for. So, and I talked about this on the last pod I did about this, in terms of that's the tone and the sound. I think I was happy, like sort of like 70 to 80% happy. That was nothing to do with George at all. He did an absolute stellar job. It was really to do with my ability to my ability in the studio after the fact, after we recorded it, sitting there and learning how to really EQ a bass and do all of that magic, and create what I'm hearing in my head on the actual recording. So that was and it wasn't, I guess it was a regret, but no, it wasn't actually a regret, was it, thinking about it? It's just, like next time around, I think that ultimately what I'm going to need to do is get my shit together in the studio, specifically with my sound, and next time around, when I'm prepping for something, be recording it. Yeah, like be recording it, messing around with the sort of like tonally, what's it sound like when I've recorded it ahead of time, so I can really, from a conceptual standpoint, understand what I want it to sound like on the recording, and then help the engineer birth that, right, get it to the finish line. And I felt like my involvement, as I said, was like I was there. We mixed it all together, and I was certainly involved in it. But I feel like my knowledge in that area just isn't up to scratch, and I need to up level in that area so I can be more useful and not more useful, but I can have be more hands on when it comes to my specific bass tone in the mix. So yeah. And that was it, really. That was my only regret about it. But I think that bearing that in mind, I'm still absolutely over the moon with the sort of like the end product and where we got to it. Over the moon. And I guess that's it for this episode, right? And before you go anywhere, remember that we're dropping this first week of October, and we're releasing a free ebook. So the free ebook's going to be coming along with it, but you're going to need to get onto the email list over at scottsbasslessons.com to be able to get that, obviously. So go get on the email list at scottsbasslessons.com. It's like sign up for the free toolkit there, or sign up for one of the free courses. There's a bunch of free options. So sign up over there to get the free ebook. So when we release the album, we'll link you to it by email. If you're already a member, obviously you don't need to do that. You'll already be hooked up. And when you get the free ebook, if you're not a member, If you're not a member, remember you're a Womble. If you're not a member, just take into consideration signing up for the membership, because I've also created an entire course focused on teaching you how to play this stuff, how to get it into under your fingers, what I was thinking when I was soloing, the scales I was using, the arpeggios I was using, all of that good stuff is in there. Again, like I've created, there's 9 workshops, a workshop for each specific track on the album. There's 9 tracks, so there's 9 workshops, and each one's like 40 minutes to 60 minutes long. So it's a real deep dive into it. And I also talk about tonally what I'm doing on the bass as well, like what I was doing, what pickups I'm using, what I'm doing with the tone control. All of that stuff is in that course. So you're definitely going to want to check it out. If you're already a member, obviously you guys are taken care of. If you're not a member, maybe you want to get signed up ahead of time, right? And you can just take a free trial as well. Just go to scottsbasslessons.com and you can take a 14-day free trial just to see if it's for you. And also remember, you're a Womble. Sorry, there's like you'll be thinking, what the heck's he talking about? There was a TV show back in the day in the UK called The Wombles, and the theme tune was "Remember You're a Womble." I'm sure a lot of you will have heard that in your childhood as well. Anyway, but what I wanted to say is, remember that I'm also doing a massive giveaway as well, where I'm giving away 5 of my personal basses. We're partnering with Pencils of Promise to raise more money for children that don't have access to school, which is a travesty. There's millions of children around the world that don't even have a freaking school to go to, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me in this day and age. Don't think that we should be there. So we're doing this giveaway with Pencils of Promise. It's completely free to enter. Again, make sure you're on the email list over at scottsbasslessons.com. And the first prize is going to be the bass I used to record this album, which is the Banana bass, my yellow F bass BN5, which is my favorite bass that I've owned in maybe actually, I was going to say the last decade, maybe my favorite bass I've ever owned, actually. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm giving away my favorite bass. But, yeah, and hopefully you're like, what? And that is exactly what I want to do. I want this giveaway to drive you to come and sign up for the giveaway and get involved. Again, it's completely free to enter, and if you're on the email list over at scottsbasslessons.com, you will find out exactly how to do it in the next few weeks. Anyway, with that said, as always, take it easy, and I'll see you in the shed.